Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Domestic Theater Company, presenting the world premiere in Fairmont of I Am Not Other, at the Gathering, February the 24th. Presented as a public service, PEG Access, the Time Warner Cable, and the Greater Fairmont Council of Churches. I'm your moderator, D.D. Mann. We invite you to visit us on the web for all of our programming at tv19.org and at flicka.org for pictures. The song appropriately for today, The Long Road Ahead by Kevin MacLeod. The New Mystic Theater Company presenting the world premiere, I Am Not Other, at the former Methodist Temple, Agape Evangelical Covenant Church, and now the Gathering. The cast of the New Mystic: Bruce Glumpley, Noah Perrone, Alex Copeland, Don Barnhart, Joey Madia, and Sean Marco. The writer and the producer, Joey Madia. And the public relations executive director, Tanya Madia, with the cast. New Mystic Arts, a non-profit organization using performing, literary, and visual arts as a means of engaging young people, families, and communities in exploration of cultural and social issues affecting their lives. In June of 2010, New Mystic Arts will be operating their center at 205 Fairmont Avenue. Visit them on the web and join them May 22nd, 6 p.m. at Westchester Village for their showcase and fundraiser. Let's get started.
Control the word, and you control the world.
Throughout its history, humankind has waged wars of hate upon its own.
Country against country, culture versus culture, city versus town, group against the one against the other.
Violence is society.
Violence is domestic.
Violence is sexual.
Violence is racial.
Violence is mindless.
Violence rips the night.
Violence rips our schools, temples, churches, mosques.
The media and TV show violence all the time.
Violence can be physical, emotional, psychological.
Violence can be war or a harsh word to a child.
Violence ruins freedom.
Violence is a choice.
Words have power.
Words from a book or a play.
Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears.
For a charismatic speaker,
We have nothing to fear but fear itself.
Can motivate the masses to act, rise up, or lay low. To initiate change and perpetuate myths through inaction and tolerance for policies they know to be wrong.
Preying on the poor and the desperate, the socially outcast.
First there was a word, passionate and full of life. Then there came the voices of anger and of battle.
Huzzah! In the end, one of them he screams, whimpers, whispers, silence.
Is there any safety in such silence?
Is there any strength in rage?
Let us say now what needs to be said. Come together instead of breaking apart, categorizing, stigmatizing, labeling, and limiting what another person or group of people can be or achieve. What do you do when you don't fit into the boxes they used to categorize and trap minorities?
they ask you to check other.
Other?
I am not other. I am a person. I am every one of us, but I am not other. I am all of you, and I am the uniqueness of me.
The burning of books by suppressive governments and fundamentalist religious groups narrows our vision and limits our possibilities. The suppression of writers and writing has been an attempt to control the word.
Control the word, and you control the world.
The average American watches 15 times more TV than he or she spends reading.
William Carlos Williams and Carl Sandburg wrote passionately about war, government, politics, and industry.
Alexander Solzhenitsyn spent 8 years in prison camps for speaking out against the Soviet government. He was later exiled for 20 years after he wrote the Gulag Archipelago about Stalinist atrocities.
Fyodor Dostoevsky was imprisoned for revolutionary activity against the Tsar. After being subjected to a mock execution by firing squad, he was exiled to hard labor in Siberia for 5 years.
Control the word,
And you control the world.
Listen closely to the cautionary tales woven in the rhymes of Gwendolyn Brooks.
Listen closely to the folk song If You Study War No More, sung by Willie Dixon.
In the political protest songs of Bob Dylan, Joe Madia's solo System of a Down, and Green Day, we can hear the words of the world through the purposeful power of music.
In the social movement plays of the group theater and the traditions of socially responsible theater carried on by Bertolt Brecht, Gustave Weil, and the living theater of Molina and Beck, we can celebrate the power of theater to break down barriers and bring about meaningful change.
There is prejudice in the entertainment industry.
Minority actors are often strictly defined as to the roles they can
A young black actress is asked.
Can you be any blacker?
Jazz poet Brendan Fraser said human rights is civil rights.
Let's put the words of the Declaration of Independence into action.
Poet Allen Ginsberg saw the best minds of his generation destroyed by madness in a long and poignant howl.
When Mexican muralists used their talents to attack the suppression of people in Latin America, they were met with voices of violence.
When Pablo Neruda said to the Chilean forces sent for him by the dictator Pinochet, "Look around you. There's only one thing of danger for you here, poetry," he was answered with voices of violence.
His poetry was outlawed for 17 years.
Federico Garcia Lorca was killed by Spanish nationalists for being leftist and homosexual. His poems on the page were banned and burned for 35 years.
Oscar Wilde was sentenced to 2 years hard labor for being a homosexual.
Forced into hormone therapy, he committed suicide.
Alan Turing, the father of computer science, the man who worked to break the German code in World War II, was a homosexual convicted of gross indecency.
3 years later, he committed suicide.
Dozens of countries prohibit same-sex relations, many of them imprison or kill gays, lesbians, and bisexuals.
Studies show that gay, lesbian, and bisexual teens are 4 times more likely to try to attempt suicide than their heterosexual peers. If their family has rejected them, they are 9 times more likely to try to kill themselves.
Bullying is using the word to create manipulation through fear.
In the beginning was the word. Words have emotional, psychological, social, and physical power.
Sticks and stones can break my bones, but names can never hurt me.
Whoever said that was never the target of vicious slurs, racial epithets, ethnic profiling, and so-called colorful euphemisms that are nothing more than a creative use of language to express intolerance and hate.
The writer-historian E.P. Thompson remarked, "We kill each other in euphemisms and abstractions long before the first missiles are ever launched."
When Lech Walesa cried, "Solidarity!" in Poland, he was answered with voices of violence in the form of martial law.
Thomas Jefferson and Benjamin Franklin based the U.S. Constitution on the 3 branches of the Iroquois Confederacy, with one notable exception.
The executive branch was often women or tribal elders who would banish warlike chiefs.
Chief Joseph of the Nez Perce said, "I will fight no more forever."
Black Elk, the Oglala medicine man, spoke of the sacred hoop and holy tree, which he saw in a vision as broken, which could be repaired and made strong by the strength of its roots.
Maya Angelou spoke of the tree 120 years later at President Clinton's inauguration.
How do we honor their vision and help the tree to grow strong?
Give voice and birth to the dream as Martin Luther King asked of us.
Imagine as John Lennon asked of us.
Tame the savageness of man and make gentle the life of this world, as Robert Kennedy asked of us.
Ask not what your country can do for you, but what you can do for your country, as John F. Kennedy asked of us.
And now, in the 21st century, it's time we start to ask, what can you do for your world?
Living in a democracy means educating yourself to the facts, hearing and understanding all points of view, and making an informed decision. The right to vote is a privilege and one of our greatest responsibilities.
Every vote counts.
Even the ones not cast.
When Mohandas Gandhi said an eye for an eye only winds up making the whole world blind, he was answered with voices of violence.
They were beaten, arrested, tear gassed, and mazed. 7 of them were famously put on trial.
One of them, Bobby Seale, was found and dragged to the courtroom.
Psychologist Abraham Maslow did a study of exemplary people like Eleanor Roosevelt, Albert Einstein, and Frederick Douglass.
Safety, love, self-esteem, and education are the keys to self-actualization and maximizing potential.
We all want to contribute to society, to make a difference. And so many are never given a chance.
1 in 5 black men go to prison as compared to 1 in 16 white men.
Humans are not violent by nature, but become violent when the lower human needs are not met.
When people are told they are the other, they often deny their cultural heritage rather than seem like a stereotype.
But the one side says you aren't enough like us, you're ashamed of you.
And the other side says, sorry, you definitely aren't like us.
We are like your kind!
This was said to a little girl sitting all alone on her 6th birthday because she was a person of color.
So many people can't or won't see past the color of a person's skin. Families are ashamed of interracial dating, threatening to withhold financial support if the relationship continues.
You speak so well.
For a black man.
Look at him. He's so clean.
For a black man.
Even among the other, some can't find a place.
Genocide was defined by the United Nations in 1948 as any of the following acts committed with intent to destroy, in whole or in part, any national, ethnic, racial, or religious group, including
Killing members of the group.
causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction, in whole or in part,
Imposing measures intended to prevent birth within the group.
forcibly transferring children of the group to another group.
When you make me other, it's easier for you to hate me.
Genocide has taken place in Bosnia, Rwanda, Armenia, Cambodia, and Iraq.
We will never forget the horrors of Auschwitz, Dachau, and Treblinka.
Or the atrocities committed at Abu Ghraib in Guantanamo Bay.
But we must try to forgive.
In 1982, 77 women and 107 children were slaughtered in the Mayan village of Rio Negro for resisting displacement from their home so the government could build a dam.
In 100 days, Hutu militias killed nearly 1 million Tutsis.
I wish I could see how slaughtering the people makes them free. The authoritarian mindset confuses attack on nation with attack on self. The suppression of women and minorities enables them to demonize the other, while seeing their cause is all good.
Who would be our heroes? Those who seek power and the accumulation of wealth, or those who speak out against
Hate,
Annihilation, desecration, segregation, war, and prejudice.
Children have been abducted to serve rebel forces in Sierra Leone and Uganda.
Child soldiers. In 1980, a 13-year-old Iranian boy blew himself up with a grenade under a rocket tank.
When Mohandas Gandhi said, "Be the change you want to see in the world," he was answered with voices of violence.
He was repeatedly beaten, arrested, and sentenced to hard labor, and yet he fasted at times for a week when his people became violent.
Nelson Mandela said nonviolence can prevail over violence. He was answered with voices of violence.
In prison several times, once for 28 years. He was accused of treason. He was forced to go underground and wear a disguise.
When W.E.B. Du Bois, social theorist and social justice activist, asked for common humanity, not racial designation, he was answered with voices of violence.
He was censored, exiled, and harassed by the U.S. government and FBI.
Lynching is defined as
Punishment outside the law, undertaken by mob, usually by hanging.
In 1930, Dr. Arthur Raper produced a report on lynching that read, 3,724 people were lynched in the U.S. from 1889 to 1930. Over 4/5 were Negroes. Particularly all lynchers were native whites. Many were tortured, mutilated, dragged, and burned. Of tens of thousands of lynchers onlookers, only 49 were indicted, and only 4 were sentenced.
Another 1,000 were lynched in the next 30 years.
200 anti-lynching bills were introduced into Congress during the first half of the 20th century, and 3 were approved by the House. None were approved by Senate.
sometimes change takes decades.
Often, change is hard.
In June 2005, 80 senators voted to apologize for the failure of the federal government to stop lynching. Some senators, including the 2 from Mississippi, refused.
Sometimes change takes decades.
Often change is hard.
In 1896, the Supreme Court said Plessy versus Ferguson was separate but equal.
In 1954, the Supreme Court in Brown versus Board of Education 2 said separate but equal is unconstitutional.
When Jim Peck, one of the Freedom Riders who tested the desegregation of the interstate bus system in Alabama in 1961, said, "Nonviolence can prevail over violence," he was answered with voices of violence.
He needed 53 stitches to close the wounds in his head.
A 60-year-old professor suffered brain damage and a paralyzing stroke.
A Justice Department officer sent to Montgomery to protect the riders at the request of Robert Kennedy was beaten unconscious and left in the street for half an hour.
In 1955, Rosa Parks was arrested after she refused to give up her seat to a white man on a segregated bus. She said she was thinking about 14-year-old Emmett Till, killed 100 days earlier for whistling at a white woman.
His face beaten beyond recognition. He was weighted down in the Tallahatchie River by a 75-pound band from a cotton gin looped around his neck with barbed wire.
His mother's insistence on an open casket brought the horrors of racism into our nation.
In 2005, 6 months before Rosa died, the statue of Emmett Till and Dr. Martin Luther King was defaced in Colorado.
Sometimes change takes decades.
Often, change is hard.
In 1956, Reverend Fred Shuttlesworth's home was destroyed by a bomb in Birmingham. His church was later dynamited and he was beaten in the streets. His wife was stabbed trying to enroll their children into a school for whites.
In 1957, when the Little Rock Nine entered a desegregated high school in Arkansas, they were met with voices of violence.
2, 4, 6, 8, we ain't gonna integrate!
On October 1st, 1961, James Meredith, an Air Force veteran, enrolled at the University of Mississippi under federal escort. 2 people were killed in the ensuing campus riots.
2, 4, 6, 8, we ain't gonna integrate!
3 years later, walking solo from Memphis, Tennessee to Jackson, Mississippi, in a march against fear, he was shot by a sniper 30 miles from the start.
Martin Luther King Jr. and others continued the march into slavery.
When civil rights activist Medgar Evers said Jim Crow must go, he was answered with voices of violence.
After weeks of police harassment and death threats, he was shot in the back in his driveway. It took 30 years to convict his killer.
Sometimes change takes decades.
Often, change is hard.
In 1962 and 63, blacks like Fannie Lou Hamer, who said,
We want to vote!
were answered with voices of violence.
On June 11, 1963, when Governor George Wallace blocked James Hood and Vivian Malone from entering the University of Alabama, it took the federalizing of the National Guard to get him to leave.
On June 19th, President John F. Kennedy sent a civil rights bill to Congress.
We must be the change we want to see in the world.
August 28, 1963, Martin Luther King was that change. On the steps of the Lincoln Memorial, he gave one of the most moving and enduring speeches in U.S. history.
I have a dream.
The manacles of segregation and the chains of discrimination.
I have a dream. We come here today to dramatize a shameful condition.
I have a dream.
The joyous daybreak to end the long night of captivity.
I have a dream.
Remind America of the fierce urgency of that.
I have a dream.
In the process of finding our rightful place, we must not be guilty of wrongful deeds.
I have a
We
dream.
must not allow our creative protest to degenerate into physical violence.
I have a dream.
Again and again, we must rise to the majestic heights of meeting physical force with soul force.
I have a dream.
My poor little children, one day in a nation, where they are not judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their character.
I have a dream.
On September 15th of that year, in Birmingham, Alabama, 4 little girls dressed in white, Denise, Carol, Addie Mae, and Cynthia,
were killed when their church was bombed. They had just heard the lesson, the love never gives.
Poet Langston Hughes wrote, 4 little girls might be awakened someday soon by songs upon the breeze as yet unfelt among magnolia trees.
It took
Nearly 40 years to bring all the perpetrators to justice.
Sometimes change takes decades.
Often, change is hard.
When Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. said, our lives begin to end the day we become silent about the things that matter. The one who condones evil is just as guilty as the one who perpetuates it. He was met with voices of violence.
On March 7, 1965, 600 marchers 6 miles out of Selma on their way to Montgomery to present a petition for black voting rights to Governor Wallace were routed by police with tear gas in clubs.
Hosea Williams had asked,
May we have a word with the Major?
Major Cloud replied,
There's no word to be had.
When Dr. Martin Luther King said soon after,
We are on the move now like an idea whose time has come.
How long? Not long.
no lies will live forever, he was answered with voices of violence. On April 4th, 1968, in Memphis, Tennessee, those voices of violence shouted so loud that all the words grew silent. Oh, deep in my heart, I do believe we shall overcome someday.
sometimes change takes decades.
Often change is hard.
In 2005, in the aftermath of Hurricane Katrina, religious, political, and entertainment leaders of the black community questioned the slow response and called attention to the large majority of poor affected, especially blacks.
They decried the use of the term refugee.
Sometimes change takes decades.
often change is hard.
Forward momentum is often still in the face of cold truth. Violence is the darkest act we know.
Its damage cannot be fixed.
Its power can be undone, but not stopped. It is the beast best locked away. Its enemy is love, in whose path it has no hope.
It's easy to rise to anger, plotting revenge, and take a tooth for the one you've lost.
It's easy to point fingers and lay blame. It's easy to talk about them and us. But violence doesn't discriminate.
Violence doesn't care about who is the other.
We're all the other.
Violence feeds on anger, justified or not.
His
Spirals on and on until someone